All right, so today we want to cover Acumatica basic replenishment. I got a list of some fields and terms that you guys had questions on, and then we can just jump right into the basic process. And then feel free to ask questions along the way, and then we can just take any Q&A or follow-ups at the end.
All right.
So with that, I'm going to share my screen here. I've kind of tried to digest what you were asking, into a spreadsheet, and then we can kind of toggle back and forth between the application and the spreadsheet. So let me share that first.
Since I sent that email, I realized that other relevant fields are located in other tabs in the stock items setup. So
Okay.
but the main thing is just how do I set the system up to do min, max, or safety stock, and then how do I run replenishment to know what we need to buy.
Right. Yeah. So it looked like that field list that you sent out was basically the replenishment tab of the item.
Yep.
So I just kind of did a quick breakdown here. We can just run down these quickly. I think I've got a couple items that look like they started to get set up in the upgrade sandbox. So we could take a look at those.
Yeah, no, I think that when we rolled out the very first system, like my people way before me started to enter some data in some of these fields. Like I see stuff in service level and a few other places. So basically I'm going to be starting from scratch on that, seeing how I want to set it up, and then overwriting whatever data's there.
Okay.
Can I just take a second to read this list?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can read through that. I guess I don't need to just read it to you, and then obviously I'll send you this afterwards.
Okay. Warehouse source for transfer type. Oh, nice. All right. Yeah, I guess forecast period. Okay. All right, I can understand most of that and figure that out. The one thing that I wasn't sure about is I guess I don't understand what service level means.
So service level is like another version of safety stock. So instead of being a quantity value, it's going to be like a percentage of safety stock
of demand.
Yeah, or a percentage of like reorder quantity.
Okay. All right, I got you. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. All right.
And then right below that, so that was kind of the list that you sent out. So right below that is just the basic replenishment process on the inventory side. So if these are all set and you're just going to kind of manually define your replenishment values and methods, then you can just go straight to step 3, which is just prepare replenishment, which I'll show you an example.
All right, I'm sorry. So there's these fields up here, but lead time is not in this field somewhere. So lead time is also really relevant to replenishment. And that's over in like by vendor.
Yeah, that's going to be in the vendor inventory. So each vendor potentially could have a different lead time, right?
Yeah. So for a particular part within the replenishment tab, it's tied to your warehouse, because we really only have one warehouse right now, but we could split it into 2 at some point. So it's tied to the warehouse. It's tied to the relevant data is found under a warehouse information and vendor information, right? Is there anywhere else?
So there's a vendor. Yeah, so here's the vendor setting. So here's where you're going to find all your lead times.
And you can enter them here?
Yeah, you can just add rows here.
I don't have access to filling in the lead time column. I can do add lead time, additional lead time days, but I'm not able to put data into the lead time column. Just strange.
So that's probably at the vendor warehouse level, maybe.
Okay. Because it's,
No, I'm not sure. I can look into see where that's coming from. That might just be the vendor basic lead time. So anything we order from this vendor, let me see here. That's probably what it is here. Purchase settings,
huh,
lead
This-
time right here.
that's weird.
So you're gonna have, so anytime I order from this vendor, anything, I have a 5-day lead time, for example.
Right.
But then maybe they have on this particular item, they have additional lead time. So it would be
Okay, that makes sense. So there's like
combination
a
of their,
base lead time, and
yeah,
then per
you would pro-
product, there could be additional.
additional,
So
right?
within a vendor, you probably set up that base lead time depending on how quickly they process and accept orders and that types of thing. So it's like it's like the processing lead time, and then additional lead time days would maybe the manufacturing time. And yeah, okay, that's
Yeah, and it's kind of like a data entry convenience too. You know, if no matter what I order from this vendor, I always get it in a week or 5 days
Yeah.
in this example, then I don't need to think about it, right? That vendor's always 5 days. I don't need to have a separate setting by item.
okay. Then vendor in stock, and then a vendor tab stock items is where you add additional lead time. All right. Weird.
And
Okay,
this is
thank you.
also where you have your economic order quantities.
Yeah. Your lot size, and this is where you
Right.
do your min.
And that's by vendor. And then you also select a default vendor.
Yep.
That way, when we run the replenishment process, the system knows who to default
Oh,
the
okay. So
purchase order to.
make sure default is set up correctly.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, once those are all set, then you really can just jump into the replenishment process screens.
Yep.
Now, if you're going to manually kind of configure those, we can just start with prepare replenishment. There's also the capability, if we do configure it for some of the moving average and demand planning, you can actually have the system calculate what it's determining replenishment parameters should be for a particular item.
Okay.
And then apply those to items. So
I see.
it's
You
usually
know
more advanced, but
Yeah, that's interesting. So calculate replenishment parameters. Is there so that might be a good thing to do to get a snapshot of what the system data is showing, and then I can think it through and overwrite if necessary.
yeah, exactly.
So the questions, wow, that goes deep into questions about what types of transactions will this thing be looking at. I mean, it won't look at, like, if I scrap something. I mean, there's like consumption into light manufacturing. There's sales. I'm thinking about consumption that it's going to be
Yeah.
looking at. There's if I do cycle counts, or is it going to be looking like if I transferred something in and out of a warehouse or a bin? So how do you know? I guess how do I validate what
Yeah. So that's why,
replenishment
I mean,
means?
this really takes a big step into MRP, I guess.
Okay.
If we want to stay basically on, initial replenishment based off settings, we kind of start at step 3, but I just wanted you to be aware that this functionality is here, and we could take another, I guess, deep dive on
once I understand MRP better, and I'm setting up MRP parameters. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
And then there's also, an additional layer here is, with light manufacturing, that's a whole nother dimension, right? So,
all right. So okay, but you say MRP.
But I just want you to be aware of this.
That's wonderful. Perfect. So you think, so just a general MRP is different than light manufacturing?
Yeah. So there's well,
because
I
MRP,
can't really.
MRP would be the like the out of the box functionality, but we decided to use light manufacturing. Okay.
Yeah, cool. And then the other thing to keep in mind, sometimes you'll see like a replenishment method of manufacturing, like here. That's intended more for the manufacturing module, not necessarily a kit assembly, which light manufacturing leverages kit assembly. So there's that concept to keep in mind too, knowing that Acumatica has its own, full-blown manufacturing modules.
Okay.
And then within manufacturing, you have a more advanced MRP engine versus this is the basic inventory replenishment calculator. I wouldn't call this full MRP.
Understood. Okay, cool. All right.
So then with that, we really kind of start at the prepare replenishment step.
Okay.
And so what this is doing here is it's you have to pick a warehouse that we're going to be replenishing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to look through all of the settings on all the items and look at the configurations and come up with a recommended quantity to process or quantity to purchase. Right now it defaults to suggested only, so it's only showing ones that it's calculating need replenishment. If we uncheck this, you can see,
I see.
It's going to take a look at everything, and most of these are saying nothing needs replenishment. Either it's not configured for replenishment or its thresholds aren't met.
Okay.
And then on the right side here, you have additional filtering. So if you wanted to kind of do a replenishment plan by vendor or by class or just for one item.
Okay.
You've got that. I've got one kind of in mid-flight. Originally I had two of these here. And I did basically you would select the ones you want to process, click process, and then it basically takes that replenishment plan and queues it up into the create purchase order screen. So it's still not a purchase order yet. It just was a replenishment plan that is now available for a buyer to create purchase orders.
All right, hold on one second. Create purchase order screen. Oh, I see it. Create purchase. All right, I see it. Just went over to the purchasing module.
Yeah, you can see here the plan type for this one is it came from replenishment. So the other potential sources for create purchase order could be if you had a sales order that you tied to purchase order, that would show up here, and then the plan type there would be SO to PO. Or you could have had requisition modules, get requests and then approve requisitions that then also become available in this create purchase order screen.
Okay, got it.
So it's kind of a one-stop shop for a buyer to kind of analyze everything that's kind of queued up from the system to automatically create purchase orders.
I see it. Okay.
This is pretty self-explanatory. The creation date will be the date we intend to do the purchase order. And then these are just different filters. Assuming, we had a number of records in here, you could filter and kind of create purchase orders in batch by vendor, by customer order type, by requested date, etc. So we would just select the ones that we're going to process, click process, and I'm in your sandbox right now, just so you know.
And then this is my purchase order screen that I'm familiar with.
Exactly. So we get right into the purchase order screen.
I see it. All right. Okay.
And if for some reason we didn't execute this, if I just delete this purchase order and then go back to prepare replenishment, now that we didn't create that incoming supply, now it shows back up in our replenishment plan.
Okay, so great. I saw calculate replenishment parameters and then how you turn that into a create PO and issue POs. All right. Got it.
Yeah, so we went over those. We kind of talked about 1 and 2, but we're really starting at step 3, the replenishment. We did the prepare replenishment.
Yeah.
And then we did the create purchase order.
All right. That is wonderful and easy and what I expected. I think that, so we haven't we're not using any type of MRP. I'm not using any kind of planning in light manufacturing yet. So I think what I was explaining is I'm looking for a quick win to just at least get min, max, or safety stocks loaded so that you know, we can monitor when things are running low.
Right.
So that's my intention. So I guess it's all about part setup, and then the execution is really simple. You just showed me. It's like three screens, 3 clicks.
Yeah, execution is pretty straightforward. You know, it's just a bunch of filtering and processing. There is, yeah, I mean, most of this stuff you're just going to go back and configure on these items. There's also, I guess I should point out on item class.
I was doing some deep dive into item class before trying to. Oh, there's a replenishment.
There is default replenishment settings by
interesting.
class.
All
So
right.
that'll help you on a go forward. So if you go back here and define these as you add new parts, you'll get a kickstart on replenishment settings. That's probably why there's so many settings in there, because there's like service levels and stuff defined on the class.
Yeah,
that's where
it would have
that's where it's
started
coming from. Yeah,
Interesting.
exactly.
Okay, wow. All right. So,
and then this is kind of an important setting if if we do get into some of that moving average demand planning. This is saying for this item class, use these values, or if we set these to hard demand, it'll look to actual sales order demand, which I put a little calculation in here for you here. So this is the hard demand calculation, allocated plus back ordered plus ship.
okay.
And I guess
that's looking at sales orders, huh? Okay. All right.
I guess the last thing to kind of point out is the help files on these are pretty good. If you're on the replenishment screen and you hit the help button, it has a good review of the screen values.
I've
and
never used the help. I've never used a help. Where was that? I've never.
Oh, the help is great. Yeah.
I've never used
any screen you're on. If you go to that little question mark in the top right, there's suggested help articles.
Yeah.
I've never.
And it tells you different processes, activities. The form reference is good. Like if you're just like, what is this field? What is that field? Form reference is really good.
Seriously.
And then they have all these kind of processes that are
okay.
pretty well documented. Now with that, the documentation is fairly generic in the sense that it applies to everyone who uses Acumatica. So there's differences in setup and configurations and modules that you've purchased or activated. Third-party products like LM, you know, there's going to be differences, but it's a great reference. It's a good starting point.
Okay. So what about replenishment classes? What's that all about?
Yeah, that's just a grouping. It doesn't really have a whole lot to it. So if we open those,
because this was set up by let's say the person who first set up this system would have put these together,
right?
And yes, these are different. Steve's familiar with.
You were part of it.
Okay. Yeah, said person
or
persons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've been on and off since the beginning.
So this is saying that, you know,
and it's just a grouping. If you notice, there's like no drill down, there's no additional fields. It's basically 3 fields in a class. So it's an ID, a description, and a source.
And why would I? So really the only relevant data is like, why would I use this? What would I use this for?
Primarily to just, you know, have a segment of items when you're going to calculate replenishment. It's a good filter.
All right, it's a part of a filter. Interesting.
Yeah, it's the same filter set here.
So the replenishment class is just for filtering.
Filtering or reporting be the 2 purposes for that one. It doesn't drive defaults like a lot of the other classes.
Like the item class did.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, item class is much more robust in the sense that when you pick a class, not only is it a group and a filter, but it's also driving defaults and settings when you're setting up an item.
Yeah, that's so, yeah, that driving defaults, that's a shortcut to me, as opposed to having to go into individual components and screens and putting data in. Are there any
Right.
other?
Yeah, and the only kind of caveat there is it only takes effect for items created since you
Oh,
make
yeah.
any change, right? So it
Okay.
doesn't retroactively update all items in this class.
Okay, all right. All right. Well, could we, I mean, that pretty much covers the overview of it. Is there anything else that you had in mind to talk about or show me?
No, that's the basics to it. It's not,
Yeah.
basic replenishment is just not that complex, right?
Right,
It's
right.
especially if you have a background in it and you don't have to review what terms mean. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I guess, and the spreadsheet that you showed, could you put that back up? With your
Yeah.
notes that had the, at the top, could you scroll to the top? So this one right here, these fields, here's the definition. And you're telling me I could have found this if I clicked on the question mark?
Yeah.
Damn
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I kind of gave you the Reader's Digest version,
All
but
right, okay.
yeah,
All right.
that's all. You could have got the basic information. And there's, if you want to dig into it more, you can still do the help. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm doing like one-liners.
Yep.
So if you want more information on any one of these, you can read the help.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll send this
demand.
to you guys.
So how about demand forecast model? Since I'm not prepared to do like MRP or data yet, I should keep it at none until because moving average should come from more of MRP stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'd probably keep it at none for now. And it'll just run off your service levels.
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to want to make sure that your moving averages and periods and everything are accurate, because it's going to then try to layer that into the replenishment plan.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So like I said, I'm gonna for parts that I want to make sure I don't run out of, I'm just gonna go in, and I haven't decided if I'm gonna use safety stock or reorder point. One of those two. I'm
Mhm.
gonna make sure I wipe out other data that could
Yeah,
interfere.
these kind of work together. So your reorder point is your trigger, and your safety stock is basically additive, right? It's going to be this plus this, because you're going to have your reorder point that's going to also
Well,
take
oh, okay.
out your safety stock. So they kind of work together.
I guess you're right. Yeah. If I set safety stock and reorder point at the same number.
Right. You'll want to have your reorder point, whether or not you use safety stock, you still want to have a good reorder point.
Okay, you're right. Thank you. That's helpful. I need to focus on reorder point, not safety stock. All right. All right, cool. That's it. I think that's that'll get me going.
Okay, good.
I have this cool report, Rebecca, that you created for me a really long time ago that allows me to get a flat file of the current setup of all this stuff. So I'll be able to go through that and see what's loaded and what's not. And then if I want to, if I have like, so we have hundreds of parts set up. If I want to like, and if I have to like, let's say there's like 100 of them that I want to start using this. Is there an opportunity for like mass uploads of data, or do I have to go into each part for?
There is, but there's kind of like a crossover point of time, effort, and cost. If it's thousands and thousands of records, then it's going to be worth building an import scenario to do that. There's no like out of the box kind of grid export import for those settings. So basically we have to design a import scenario that has the fields that you want to bring in. We'll have like a fixed Excel template where you're going to put in your data, and then we'll process that data through import scenario.
All right, so yeah, that's not going to happen.
So capabilities there, it just depends if it's worth the effort.
All right, well, I'm good.
All right, last thing I wanted to just show you really quick, I forgot to show you on the prepare replenishment, we have all these kind of quantities that go into this calculation, but it also has a number of other quantity fields that aren't showing. So
Yeah.
sometimes if you're trying to figure out like, why is it saying that I have 6, but none are available, you can drag in some of these other quantity fields.
Got it. Okay. Yep. All right, cool.
All right. Okay, I will send you the Excel sheet that we looked at. I will send you the recording so you can kind of reference back. And then I guess let me know if you have any questions on this stuff, or if we want to schedule time to take the next leap into more of the LM, MRP and replenishment.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to want to do that. But need to get my bearings first.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Steve.
Very good. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, Steve. Can you hang out for like 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to ask you a question on something unrelated to this.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
Scott.
thanks.
We
Let
can,
me stop
yeah.
the recording here.